Hi, this is Kandia with Kandia Haynesworth Designs, and thank you so much for joining in on Behind the Stitches, where I invite you into my life to show you what I do and what I'm working on when my personalization company is closed. Today, I'd like to invite you into an art therapy session where I discuss depression and grief and the process. And so let's start out by talking about depression real briefly. Depression is a mood disorder that causes a persistent feeling of sadness and loss of interest. And what caused my depression? Well, the loss of my mom. I lost my mom on August 13th, 2020 from COVID-19. My mom attended a party that I begged her not to go to and that I warned her about COVID-19, and she chose to go. When she attended the party with about 35, 40 other people who were not safe. And so there was no social distancing. There was no sanitizer or wipes on the tables. They were sitting next to each other, taking pictures, laughing and joking as family will do. And they were not wearing masks. And 7 days later, 1 week after my mom attended that party, my mom tested positive for COVID-19. And within 2 weeks, my mom was gone. And so, after my mom's death, I sunk into a very, very, very deep depression. And I wanted to discuss with you my process, what I have learned about depression, what I have learned about myself. And I'm hoping that my mother's story and my story can help one of you all out there, or maybe you can pass my story along if you know someone who has a very similar experience. So let's get started. Let's talk about what is grief. Grief is a natural response to loss. It's the emotional suffering you feel when something or someone you love is taken away. The more significant the loss, the more intense the grief will be. How do I interpret what that means? Well, I've discovered that grief is the price you pay for loving someone. The truth is, grief is a unique experience. You don't ever grieve a loss the same, and no two people grieve the same. But most importantly, the grieving process is yours. You get to grieve privately, publicly, or not at all. It's your right to do it your way. No one gets to criticize you nor judge you on your grieving process. And it's not important if people don't know that. It's only important that you know that. So let's talk about the stages of grief. There are 7: shock, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, testing, and acceptance. While I've experienced 4 out of 7 of these stages, I can tell you the ones that I have experienced personally are shock, denial, anger, and depression. My soul could not accept that my mother was gone. I was in complete shock. I kept hoping I was just going through a really bad, and a very long nightmare. And denial, after my mom's death, I kept calling her phone. I kept calling her cell phone over and over in the day, in the evening, in the morning, in the nighttime, wee hours of the night. I kept texting my mom. And my therapist had helped me learn to understand what I was going through. And she had told me it was called denial. My soul could not accept my mom was gone, and so the reaction would be just to simply deny it and do the things that I would normally do as if she was still here. I gotta tell you that it was the worst thing ever to come to terms that my mom was never going to answer my calls again. And then there's anger. Well, I can tell you that that is one that I still struggle with. I have not overcome being angry. I can tell you though that my anger, I understand it more, I understand it better than I did 2 months ago, 3 months ago, 4 months ago. And basically, my anger is basically it circles around the circumstances leading to my mom's death, the insensitivity that my family displayed, the disrespect of my mom's death and what happened to her was unbelievable. And to be quite frank, it launched something inside of me that I never knew existed. But what I did know was what I was feeling toward the people that shared the same DNA that I have, the same grandparents that I have. I can tell you that I knew that it wasn't healthy. And so, having help, meaning therapy and that kind of thing, really, really helped me balance these things and work them out and shift my perspective and how I looked at things and so forth. However, it doesn't change how I feel about it yet. Okay, maybe one day I can make another video a year from now, a month from now, 6 months from now, and I can tell you how I got over that. But if I am being honest and I am being frank, I am still very angry. Now, the depression. Depression, I can tell you once again, I'm not in the clear yet, but I am better. I am much better than I was 2 months ago, much better than I was 3 months ago, definitely much better than I was when it first occurred 4 months ago. And so I can tell you, although I recognize that I am better, I can tell you that I also recognize that I am not where I need to be, where I should be, where I would like to be. Depression is a sadness that is truly indescribable. However, I'm a fighter. And if nothing else, I am grateful. And you may ask, Kandia, what are you grateful for? Your mom died. Well, I am grateful that I'm alive, right? And so my mother's life was her life, and my life is my life. And I have to still make sure that I show God that I am grateful that I am here. I still have a life to live. And so, I got to tell you that it takes a different kind of person, and it does take a strong person to publicly grieve, publicly tell you their experience, especially when the process is not complete yet. But I can tell you that if someone has went through what I went through, then this video will help them. They will understand and know that they're not alone. And so that was really important for me to talk about and make this video, and most importantly stress that being depressed is nothing to be embarrassed about, and definitely grieving is nothing to be embarrassed about. And so I will talk about it as I go through this process and go through my journey. Okay, so let's talk about what grieving feels like. I can tell you firsthand that I've experienced everything on this list plus more. After the death of my mom, I felt empty and numb, and I was in total shock. I did experience physical changes, uh, trembling, eye jerking, nausea from time to time, heart palpitations, oh my goodness, panic attacks, anxiety, but not muscle weakness. I didn't experience that. Dry mouth from time to time, but that could have been just a lack of water. And I definitely had trouble sleeping, and I was eating everything under the sun, which now I am on a super diet. Okay. And I also experienced feelings of anger and guilt. And in another video, my safety plan video, I had told you what I felt guilty about. And I am still angry over how things happened and how it occurred. And I also had strange dreams and nightmares. I can't say that I recall being absent-minded, unless you want to include forgetfulness. I would forget appointments, that kind of thing. I definitely withdrew socially. And I opened my business and closed my business, opened my business and closed my business. So the lack of desire to return to work, I definitely had experienced that. Okay, so let's talk about withdrawing socially for a few seconds. I can tell you that this was something I definitely did. I withdrew from my family, my friends. I appreciated everyone sending me prayers and checking on me, but I just truly didn't want to be bothered. I can tell you that the deception in grieving in isolation is that grieving in isolation is comforting. It feels good. It feels safe because there's no judgment when you are alone. So if you want to cry while you are in the shower, if you want to cry in your bed, if you want to cry while standing at the stove making food or washing the dishes, you can cry anywhere in your house and don't have to be embarrassed about it, don't have to be criticized for it, don't have to be judged. However, although it may feel good to be able to grieve alone, it may not be the best thing to be alone. So get some help. Grieving doesn't feel good, and it's okay not to be okay. And I am telling you firsthand, get some help. In group therapy, one of the most popular questions is, how long does grief last? And I can tell you that I learned firsthand after my dad's death that grieving lasts as long as it takes you to accept and learn to live with your loss. And as for me, that is one of the things that I struggle with right now, currently grieving the loss of my mom. I know that this isn't going to be over for me no time soon. Right? And so for some people, grief lasts a few months. For others, grieving may take years. I receive so many emails and text messages and phone calls from people, YouTubers, subscribers, customers that share their personal stories. And I remember one particular story very, very clearly where this woman told me her mom passed away 22 years ago. 22 years ago. And she said, I'm still not over my mom. I'm still not over my mom. She said the smell of cinnamon and spice and butter when you're making yams or sweet potato pie, because that was one of her mother's signature recipes, that it brings her back to being a little girl. It brings her back to being a teenager. It brings her back to being a young woman. It just brings her back to the comfort and memories of her mom, which causes her to have meltdowns from time to time. And so for me, I already know that this isn't going to be a short process for me at all. And so the length of time grieving spent pretty much is different for each person. And remember, we talked about it earlier that grieving is unique for everyone, and no two people grieve the same, and no grieving process is the same. So, once again, the length of time spent grieving is different for each person. The time spent grieving also depends on your relationship with the person lost, and the case of death, and how prepared you are for the loss. The one thing that you don't want to do is compare your grief to someone else's grief. Meaning, let's say you have lost a parent and you have siblings that lost a parent as well, and you are barely making it to the shower each day, and they are posting pictures on Facebook and showing how happy they are and going to parties, and you can't understand how is it that they are so happy when you were raised by the same mom or dad or both, and you lived in the same house, and you had the same upbringing, the same experiences. How is it that they are quickly able to just go on as business as usual? The one thing that you need to know and even respect is it's none of your business. Grieving is an intimate process. Grieving is a very intimate process between you and God. That's it. You don't get the in on what their secret formula is to overcoming the death of your loved one. And if you compare yourself to how someone else is reacting to the death of a loved one that you both are related to or even connected to, then you are actually going to torture yourself. And to be quite frank, it's not even fair. We all get to grieve the way we want to. You get to do it your way, and they get to do it theirs. And so don't focus on how someone else is grieving or what something looks like on the surface. You don't know how many hours that person may have cried before they post that picture that they took 38 times on before posting it on Facebook. So you might be saying, wait a second, Kandia, it does hurt. It does hurt to see other family members that you share the same parents with or you share the same connection with go on as business as usual. I know. I know it hurts. I can tell you that I understand firsthand what you may be feeling, what you may be frustrated with, and how disappointing and upsetting it could be just to see everybody going on as business as usual, as if you did not lose your mom, as if you did not lose your dad, or as if you did not lose the same best friend. I totally get it. But I gotta tell you that, you really gotta focus on you and your process and not whatever their process is. Because if you get caught up in whatever they're doing, you are actually going to prolong your process. Imagine how I feel. I lost my mom because there was a party in North Carolina. My mother was residing in North Carolina and there was a party. And so family members traveled in from New York, Pennsylvania, and up from Florida, all to North Carolina in the middle of a pandemic. In the middle of a pandemic. And I warned my mom that it wasn't safe. And guess what? She wasn't safe. A week later, she tested positive, and 2 weeks later, she was dead. And guess what? 2 months later, 3 months later, my family is partying again. Even Christmas. I'm seeing pictures of family members, the same family members that uh, partied with her in July, the same family members traveling from out of state. I got family members, I should say, from New Jersey, traveling all the way to Florida. And the same family members that were partying in North Carolina are still going to each other's houses. And this is the action that, contributed to my mom's death. And so it's a slap in the face where you see the same people blatantly disregarding what happened in July. And the worst part about it is they still are not wearing masks. They still are not social distancing. So, it hurts, but I can't get caught up in their stupidity. I got to focus on my life and my process and my story. And you should do the same. So, if you're feeling unmotivated, hurt, angry, disappointed, disgusted, betrayed, discouraged, lost, or lonely, all because of your depression and your grief, please know I understand. I'm still traveling on this treacherous and rocky road called grief. And I don't know how long I'm going to be here, but I can tell you this. I am learning how to maneuver. And what does that mean? And how can you do the same? Simply take responsibility. Take responsibility for your life. And how do you do that? By protecting your peace. Protecting your peace. Your peace is yours. Your peace belongs to you, and you need to hold on to it. You need to protect it. You don't need to allow anything or anyone to disrupt it. Period. So even if you see family members being insensitive, downright foolish, going on as business as usual, when you all have suffered a tremendous loss, you now need to think about how are you seeing these things. Because if you're on Facebook, if you're on Instagram, and you are maybe still friends with them, or you have not changed your settings so when you log on, it pops up on your feed, that's not their fault. That's your fault. So you might need to change your settings for a little while. You might need to delete some family members for friends for a little while. Whatever it is you need to do to protect your peace, you need to do it. You need to do it, period. And you need to own it and know that it is not their fault that you saw a picture of them on Instagram with them having fun when you feel like they should be sad because you lost a loved one together. And so, once again, protect your peace. Protect your peace and know that this is a process that's not a short process, especially if you have loved this person that you've lost a long time. You're not going to be over it in a month, in 2 months, just because someone else is. And so, you guys, I'm not telling you anything that I have not done myself. I am not telling you anything that I have not done just recently as of January 1st. Once I realized that some family members still were connected to me on Facebook and Instagram, and their pictures were popping up on Instagram feed, pictures that, again, I found to be very disrespectful and totally disregarded how my mother died. Keep in mind, they're partying the same way that contributed to her death. Meanwhile, she's in the ground. And so they were able to go on as if what they had done or contributed to. I'm not suggesting that they killed my mom, but I am just saying that if there was no party, then there wouldn't have been no family members coming down to North Carolina from 3 different states meeting in 1 different state. And they still doing the same thing. They still doing the same thing. And let it be known that my mother wasn't the only one who contracted COVID-19. And so the party had about 35 people there, maybe 40. And at least a dozen people that I can count on guaranteed had COVID-19. I think after a while they stopped reporting it because they know that it was upsetting to me, and I was on social media talking about it, and so they started to keep it quiet. I had to get away from that. I had to get away from that because it was destroying me. It was triggering me. It was triggering anger. It was triggering emotions. It was triggering frustrations on days when I was having a good day. On days that I was having a good day. Here it is. I go online and now I'm mad. Now I'm mad for the rest of the afternoon or the rest of the evening or the rest of the day because I saw a picture. But how did I see that picture? So protect your peace. Protect your peace. Protect your peace. Protect your peace. You guard it like you would guard a newborn baby. And you don't allow anyone to touch your peace, get near your peace. Absolutely not, because it's yours and it belongs to you. So, if you're feeling depressed and or grieving the loss of a loved one, like I am, let's do it together. Yes, there will be days where you may feel the hurt and sadness is pulling you underwater. I can tell you, I know exactly how that feels, and it's an awful feeling. You feel helpless, you feel hopeless. But there is hope. There is hope. And how do I know? Because we are still here. We are still alive. And where there is life, there is hope. You don't have to battle this on your own. And I can tell you, I know firsthand that, I kept declining help and isolating myself, and it wasn't helping me. It wasn't helping me. I wasn't feeling better. And so I had to give myself a chance again to reclaim my life. And to do that, I reached out for help and I accepted help. And so I'm encouraging you to accept help from your family and your friends that love you and are offering to help you. And you may say, but Kandia, there is no one offering to help me. And that's where you're wrong. I'm offering help. I'm offering to help you just like someone helped me. And I'm giving you a list of resources to reach out for assistance. Well, that's all I have for you today. Thank you all once again for your continuous support of my channel and for your prayers. This painting is my depiction of what coming out of depression looks like and what it feels like. Depression is tough. Depression is tough, and it can feel like you are underwater sometimes, but there's hope. There is hope and there is help. And we can get through this together. It's a slow process, but It can happen. And as long as we have help, we have life. We have to remember that. And so if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. But most importantly, share it. Share it with someone that you may know who is going through a tough time, who may be suffering from depression or currently grieving the loss of a loved one. 2020 was a tough year for everyone. I hardly even want to even say 2020 ever again. But there is hope in looking forward to the future and reclaiming our lives and becoming a better us, not the old us. I'm not reclaiming my old life. I'm reclaiming my life and to become a better me. And I hope you stick around to watch me do that. Thank you once again for joining in on my journey. And until then, I will see you next time. Bye.